We are now joined in studio by Leo Terrell. He is the head of the Justice Department's task force to combat anti-Semitism. Leo, you wake up this morning and see this terrible news out of Australia. There is a report that a Holocaust survivor is among the killed, the dead at Bondi Beach. What do you make of this?
First of all, let me simply say happy Hanukkah to the Jewish community around the world. Secondly, what happened in Australia, very tragic. But more importantly, and very important, we have a leader in the White House, President Trump, to make sure that those type of events do not occur in this country. So, Peter, I've been up for almost 8 hours on this issue, and President Trump, the Attorney General, the FBI, we're on this 24/7 because Hanukkah should not be a fear for people to celebrate.
And I know that the world is a dangerous place, but in the last couple of years, it seems like it is most dangerous for Jewish people celebrating their faith. Why is that?
Well, I'll submit to you, it's a lot safer given the fact that Trump is in office. We know what happened prior to Trump. So let's be clear. Trump has made the Jewish community a lot safer. Trump has done wonders in the Middle East. He's bringing peace to the Middle East. So I would agree with you that anti-Semitism exists in countries and it's horrible. But I will simply say this. You're talking about strong leadership. It's President Trump and General Bondi.
We've got a soundbite from one of the top rabbis in Sydney, Levi Wolf. Let's play that.
To have to think that here in Sydney, Australia, I have to have security full-time at my synagogue. My children have to go to school where they're told not to wear their uniforms outside so that people shouldn't identify them as Jews. And now when we come to celebrate a Jewish holiday, 12 of our best are gunned down. So, I mean, there are no words.
President Trump did just tell me on the phone that American Jews do not need to be worried celebrating Hanukkah in the United States this year. But what kind of steps does the Justice Department need to take, or is the Justice Department taking to ensure everyone's safety?
Well, can I just say that that comment in Australia and throughout the world, there are some countries that are acknowledging the existence of Palestine, and I find that offensive. They have given a green light to attack Jews. I don't want to mention any countries, Australia, France, Canada. I find that offensive. But my point here is that the president has made sure, this is why the task force exists, to meet with the Jewish community and to address their concerns. That security issue, that's called the Jewish tax, Peter. That's because Jewish organizations have to pay an additional fee to make sure they can go to their synagogue, go to their school, go out and buy groceries. That should not be the case, and President Trump is making sure that Jewish Americans are safe in this country.
We have another soundbite here now. This is SOT 9 on the sheet of a witness to this shooting today. We don't have it. Well, the witness said at Bondi Beach, when we all realized it was an active shooter, pandemonium broke out. Hundreds of people were running across a busy road where cars were still moving towards safety. Are threats like this globally, because we know that the president says things are safe in the United States, but is there a fear of something happening in Australia, anti-Semitic mass shooting, inspiring copycats?
I'm not going to lie to you. I think absolutely. Let's be clear. What happened in Australia is an act of terrorism. No question about it. And you will have copycats. But if those copycats attempt to come to this country, it's not going to happen. With the FBI, with Pam Bondi, with President Trump. Listen, President Trump, by executive order, has made sure that anti-Semitism will not exist in this country. And that's why I'm on this task force.
And as the head of the task force, I think to take a step back from this terrible story, 12 people dead, including children and a Holocaust survivor, according to reports. What has happened in the last couple of years that there is globally so much more anti-Semitism? There are isolated incidents here in the United States, but after the October 7th attack and the years of war that followed, and then we did see President Trump broker peace in the region, and yet here we are. More countries in the Middle East are recognizing Israel or are reportedly about to, and yet there is still this anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
Why? What happened though?
Well, I'll tell you what happened.
Was the driver?
I'll tell you. what happened is we turned our back on the Jewish community. Jew hatred is well financed. There's money coming to this country. You have people who will just simply lie about the facts of what's going on in Israel, in Gaza, in this country. You saw what was happening on our campuses. And what I'm saying is there are the media, certain media organizations that turn their backs on this actually going on. I don't want to mention their names: CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, Washington Post. These are the organizations that have an obligation to point it out, but they fail to do so.
So what's next for the anti-Semitism task force? You said that you've been up for 8 hours about this. It's early on Sunday on the East Coast. What kind of calls were you getting, and what do you need?
Well, first of all, I'm up 8 hours because you had to keep up with President Trump. He never sleeps. But I'll tell you right now, talking to the Jewish community, talking to my direct supervisor, Stanley Woodard, who's number 3 in the DOJ's office. But what we're doing is we're making sure that there's any concerns about celebrating Hanukkah, I'm on the phone with the FBI. I was on the phone all morning with the FBI, sending emails. That is the requirement that President Trump demands from people on this task force.
Israel has always been one of America's closest allies. And for many years, top officials, including everybody in Congress basically, made it known that they had Israel's back. That is no longer the case anymore in the last couple of years. Is that a contributor here?
Yes. The Democrats have abandoned Israel. They are not. Hey, I'll welcome any Democrat to join this task force and fight anti-Semitism. But it would be a lie for me to deny the fact that the Democrat Party has, in generally, abandoned Israel. I find that offensive. This is a country that believes in religious freedom, Peter. And what happened? What happened to the Democrat Party?
I don't think that I realized this, and this would be interesting to our audience. There are no Democrats on the anti-Semitism task force at the Justice Department?
Well, let me simply say this. The task force that I have created, the task force that work on these issues 24/7, I would love to get some Democrats to come on and say, hey, we'd like to join your task force to fight anti-Semitism, to eliminate the Jewish tax, to make sure that schools are safe. So, hey, we welcome everyone. And there's bipartisanship out there, but maybe it may not be politically correct, Peter.
And the last thing before we let you go, is the Justice Department, the FBI, part of the Justice Department, aware of any threats or tracking any threats that you know of this holiday season against Jews?
That's a very good question. And being a lawyer for 30 years, if there were, I couldn't tell you on the air right now.
Understood. Well, we covered a lot of ground here. It's a difficult day for a lot of people watching, and we really appreciate it, Leo.
Happy Hanukkah to the Jewish community again, and I'm privileged to work for President Trump.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.